What? Yeah. I guess we're being recorded now.
Hi, Alan and Michelle.
Morning.
Yeah.
It's Linda.
How you doing?
Oh, a lot of pain, Michelle.
Oh,
Sorry.
Yeah. Pam won't be with us today. She visiting with her brother's church.
okay.
Well, thanks for letting us know.
Thanks for keeping up. I know that
Really?
you may not get here to the building, but that you're in communication with a lot of people, and we appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So, well, it's 1 minute after 11. We'll just go on with our study of the document called Hebrews in our Bibles. We were looking at what we call the 11th chapter. We begin that today. It's about faith. And it follows up the last verses from the previous chapter. The righteous shall live by faith. Do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. Persevere in it, he says. Then, after some dire warnings, he concludes that 10th chapter. We are not of those who shrink back and are destroyed, but of those who believe and are saved. So the concepts addressed in those last couple of verses, faith and belief, I think they're the same thing, but some people differ. What is faith? What does it mean to you?
Something you never see what you believe.
Something you believe, but you don't see. Because if you saw it, it wouldn't be faith. It'd be knowledge. We were talking about knowledge the other few Wednesday nights ago. And, we say we know things and we have a deep confidence, but, we don't know for sure what the future holds. But we have faith about what the future holds because of our belief and faith in God. So anything else? What does faith mean to you?
Having confidence in Christ.
Okay, confidence. That's confidence that we have in Christ. Confidence is, you're willing to make, I guess.
And we trust in Christ.
Trust is a big part of it, yeah. We, based upon faith, confidence, or trust, we give ourselves. If we trust someone, we might ask them to hold our money, but we have to trust them pretty well before we would have them to do that. Or we trust people to teach our children or to do things for us. And different levels of trust. We are willing to give different aspects into the care of others. But we trust God implicitly and are willing to give our lives into his hands. This version here, the New International Version, says faith is being sure of what we hope for. And then follows it up, and certain of what we do not see. Faith is a certainty or a sureness. We just know it, even though we can't see it. That is what the ancients were commended for. Well, I like the old version also. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's what the old King James Version says. Faith is the substance. Can't touch it, but it's there as a substance. It's there as evidence. Many would say no. Faith is being sure of what we hope for. What are the things we hope for? What do you hope for?
The most things we look for is heaven.
Heaven, okay? A life beyond this, a better life, a life with God, in the presence of God. We hope for heaven. Reunion with loved ones, perhaps, there. Those that passed away, we have a confidence that they've passed into that better life also, and that we can be reunited. And that entails a resurrection. When we die and separate body and spirit, there's going to come a resurrection, a raising again. We have a hope for peace, for acceptance by God. And hope is what? It's something we desire, but something that we expect. It's something that we have reason to believe is going to happen, not just some pie in the sky concept. So it defines faith, because that's what so much is based upon. The ancients, well, we're going to read about some ancients, some people from the Old Testament who had faith. By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made of what was visible. There's something else. You talked about something that's not seen. What we see came from something that was not a visible thing. God created the universe. Well, there's been a debate, it continues to be a debate. How long did it take him? Did it take him 4,000 or 6,000 years? Was the world created according to the chronology of Genesis? Or are there some hidden ages of billions of years in there? Well, when I was growing up, science kind of taught that the universe, well, it's always been there, you know, but now science says that there was a beginning, whether we call it a Big Bang or something else. That's what science says now. There was a beginning, there was a time. And, you know, the scripture kind of answers what was there before the beginning. God was there and caused what we see to come into existence.
When that theory came out of the Big Bang, some reacted negatively to it.
Yeah.
Like, sounds too much like the Bible. We can't, you know, so I don't know specifically who, but
yeah,
you just mentioned it. You know, some people were critical and saying, wow, you know, it sounds too much like the Bible. Put it in historical perspective. If you're not aware of the Mesopotamian accounts were basically you got these two gods fighting, and out of the universe comes, you know, they make the universe out of this defeated God.
Yeah.
Okay, and mankind is made from the blood of that defeated God. Don't ask me how that all works, because it's Mesopotamian mythology. So that was the ancient view.
Yeah, but it's by faith that we have that understanding that the universe didn't happen by accident, that there was a force behind it. The vastness of the universe is beyond our comprehension, because if you say the universe is this big based upon the stars that are at the extreme end, what's beyond that? And the universe is inexplicable to us based upon the things that are tiny. When I was growing up, the molecule was the basis of everything. Then they said, well, you know, there's atoms in there. And now they've broken that down, and there's a lot of things in the atoms and a lot of things in the things. And anyway, it's an incomprehensible thing to us, and yet we know how to deal with day-to-day aspects. But we have an understanding that the universe was formed at God's command. So that's part of what we have a faith in. Now we get a number of verses that begin by faith, and then they talk about some people. So some people look upon this 11th chapter as kind of a hall of fame of faith. And there's a lot of names there. But I guess the question, why did the author choose these people? He names a bunch of miscellaneous people near the end, and we'll get to that. But he doesn't name everybody in the Old Testament that had faith. But he names some people that had faith. And so he starts with a fellow named Abel. Who's Abel?
That's Adam and Eve's son.
Yeah, a son of Adam and Eve, the first people. This is their son, one of their sons, as far as we can understand, the second born son. By faith, Abel offered God a better sacrifice than Cain did. By faith, he was commended as a righteous man when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith, he still speaks, even though he is dead. So, what do we know about Cain and Abel and their offering to God?
Well, Cain was a man of the was in agriculture.
Yeah.
And Abel was a herdsman, I guess. He kept
raised
sheep,
livestock.
right? Pardon?
He raised livestock.
Right.
Yeah.
And they both brought sacrifices. Cain brought something that he had grown, and Abel brought an animal. And God commended his offering, but not Cain's.
Yeah, I wonder why. We just
Because Abel's gift to God was like a blood sacrifice.
okay, that's a good point to make. Blood has been very important. Go ahead.
No, I was done.
Blood has been very important in the teachings under the Old Law and under the New Testament. Blood is the life. Under the Old Law, people weren't supposed to drink or eat blood. Yeah, that's even a concept that was passed along to the Gentile converts in Acts in the New Covenant. So perhaps it was that. But we don't have a lot of knowledge as to what happened. All we know is now Abel kept flocks and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, as they did later on too. There were animal sacrifices and grain offerings, but Abel brought fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry and his face was downcast. Is there something there? There must have been some way in which they were to understand that an offering with blood was what God wanted.
Is that so? The implication is that Cain's offering wasn't of the best of his fruits.
Wasn't of faith.
Whereas they describe what Abel gives as
By faith.
Firstborn.
Yeah.
And the other one was the fruit, but not the first fruit, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that was it. Maybe he didn't offer the best. Maybe he offered what was left over. Or maybe there had been some kind of instruction about what God wanted. But that's all we know about it. And we're to understand that an offering by faith must be consistent with what God wants. And that's it. What does the voice of Abel speak to us?
I believe it's an example of faith. I mean, there's a lot of different, I've read that there's a lot of different opinions, but I think just simply his example of faith.
It's an example of faith, certainly. In the next chapter, Hebrews 12:24, he goes on and says, to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, and to the sprinkled blood that speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. What is the blood of Abel? Abel, because of Cain feeling so downcast, he murdered his brother Cain. And so Jesus says in Matthew 23 that Cain's blood speaks to us. And Abel's blood. I'll get it. Matthew 23, I was trying to find verse 35. He says, upon you will come, Jesus talking to the people of the time, upon you will come all the righteous blood that has been shed on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah. And we'll get to that later, but his blood, Abel's blood, calls what? For vengeance, in a sense. And Jesus says there's going to come that you can have faith in that God is going to avenge the blood of innocent people that has been shed. So that's what Abel's blood, Jesus' blood speaks something different. It speaks of payment for sin and of redemption. So I think that's what Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant, his blood speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. A blood not of righteousness and vengeance, but a blood of redemption. And the sins have been paid for. So maybe that's why he got into Abel. You know, he's kind of a mysterious character. We don't know how long he lived. We don't know, if he had descendants or anything like that. But he's chosen as an example of faith from the very beginning. There were some who had faith and some who didn't. And faith is important. So anyway, any other thoughts on Abel? Why was Abel chosen? Because there's been a need for faith from the very beginning.
It's kind of unique that his blood cries out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
yeah.
and there, I never got that the ground absorbed Abel's blood, therefore the ground's going to be cursed for him.
Well, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. Cain is cursed. It kind of fits together in a way that, takes a little thought to really get at what's behind it. The next one is perhaps equally obscure. By faith, Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. Wow. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. What do we know about Enoch?
He was taken away without dying.
Yeah, it's just a couple of verses back in Genesis chapter 5, verses 22 through 24. That's about all that we have. He's the seventh descendant, the seventh generation from Adam. Cain is cursed, Abel is dead. The line runs Adam, Seth, Enos, Canaan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch. He's 7. Then Enoch, Methuselah, Enoch, Noah.
Methuselah. He's the father of Methuselah.
The father of Methuselah, who lived a long time, died in the year of the flood. Whether he died in the flood, we don't know. Anyway, but Enoch, if you like the genealogies, he's 7th from Adam, is described. Verse 22, if I can get to that. After he became the father of Methuselah, Enoch walked with God 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enoch lived 365 years, which wasn't much because these guys were living 900 years. So Enoch walked with God, then he was no more because God took him away. And that's what the Old Testament tells us about Enoch.
It must have been pretty special.
Especially,
He had a personal rapture.
Yeah.
We're all going to be a part of a group rapture. He had a one-on-one rapture with us 30 other people have gotten, right?
Dan, where do you get that from?
It doesn't say that in the Bible. I'm calling it a personal rapture. Okay. He got pulled out. He went home to God.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what we're all going to experience that someday.
By faith, it says he was taken from this life. I don't know. I wonder if God says, I'm going to take you away. But he had faith in God.
And God just took him directly to heaven. Is that what?
Yeah.
I guess
that's implied. Yeah.
He didn't die. There was no separation of body and spirit. Somehow God will give him a new body in a way that's almost unique, because there was only one other person who's described as he was not. Who's that? The prophet Elijah disappeared. And the prophets looked around on the hills. They couldn't find him. And he was taken by God.
Enoch is the first mention of idea that, of resurrection, i.e. pointing to a resurrection.
Okay.
Of eternal life, that, mankind will just not, just lay around, but there's a destiny for mankind.
Do we know anything else about this fellow Enoch?
He prophesied something
about
the wicked, according to Peter
Jude, verse 14, he's mentioned. Jude, kind of a strange book where we get some views into the spiritual realm in that book that we don't get in other places. Jude, verse 14, there's only one chapter. Enoch, the 7th from Adam, prophesied about these men. See, the Lord is coming with thousands upon thousands of his holy ones to judge everyone and to convict all the ungodly of all the ungodly acts they have done in the ungodly way, and of all the harsh words ungodly sinners have spoken against him. These men are grumblers and fault finders. They follow their own evil desires. They boast about themselves and flatter others for their own advantage. That's all we know about Enoch, other than the Old Testament. He was a preacher and warned people of the judgment to come, prophesied. I wonder if he was very popular at the time. Probably not, because he's saying to people there's a judgment coming for all the bad things that you're doing. Maybe that's why God pulled him out, because he must have accomplished what God wanted him to accomplish in 365 years, and then God pulled him out.
It seems like God couldn't wait to get him to heaven. He pulled him out quick,
Yeah.
That's why I say he must have been a very special person.
A special person.
Like Elijah, he was very unique too.
A man of faith.
Those would be lunar years, not solar years. So a little less than
Well, we could,
I'm not saying that they did, you know, I'm not arguing that the numbers are symbolic, it's just that they would probably understood it lunar years and solar years, so just a little bit less. But still, they live a long time.
yeah, they have shorter months, but anyway,
That's shorter months, that doesn't mean they had a shorter year.
yeah, they had to make up for it. Otherwise, you'd have
Otherwise, the seasons would have gotten way out of alignment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They have some way to fix that.
I think if they so often they added a month, but anyway,
Yeah.
that's what we know about Enoch, someone who prophesied, someone, and how would he prophesy unless God revealed to him that these things were going to happen? And so he believed God in order to prophesy. And we don't know how God communicated these things to him.
It must have been more direct. Yeah.
We don't know if dream or did Adam or somebody tell him. These guys lived a long time now.
That's a patriarchal age, yeah, it was a little different. They
Yeah.
operated differently. He spoke to the patriarchs, Abraham and
Yeah,
Isaac.
spoke
Think of all these
directly.
people, they had these intimate times with God.
Yeah,
He passed information on to them.
yeah.
And kind of like a counselor, I understand it. He was kind of counseling them. And then Moses they ushered in another age, you know.
Okay. So Enoch, interesting that he chose these two, Abel and Enoch, that go way far back, almost from the very beginning, or really from the beginning, that faith has been a part of God's desire, part of God's plan from the very beginning of time, I think. Because when the Jews, the Hebrews, think of faith, they thought of some of the names that we're going to be running into pretty quickly. But he wanted to take it further back than that, evidently. So, anyway, the other thought that's, who's next? Noah. Oh, but
Abraham.
there's a verse 6. And without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him.
Right.
Without faith, it is impossible to please him. In Romans, what Paul says, that which is not of faith is of sin. So faith is necessary to please God. A certainty or an assurance of those things which we can't see. That's what God wants us to have. He could, in a sense, do more. Couldn't he? God could have the stars line up and read God exists, but he doesn't do that. I don't know what language he could do it in, English or Hebrew, or he could do a lot of things, but he doesn't, because he seeks belief and worship based upon faith. That's what pleases God. And so we please God by having faith, don't we? Well, knowledge will come, and what Corinthians says, faith, hope, and charity. But the greatest of these is charity. The others will be overcome by what we see. Anyway, what is the essence of faith according to this verse? You must believe that God exists, that there is someone behind all this, and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. So that's incorporates a lot into that phrase. He rewards those. In other words, there's some consequences to belief or unbelief. And if there's a reward for belief, you know, maybe there's a reward for unbelief. But that's really what, when God promises that reward for faith, that's what he wants us to believe. That's what's mentioned. He doesn't go into a whole lot more in that particular verse, but that he rewards them who earnestly seek him. That it's worth whatever is necessary to seek God. Anyway, he just adds that, maybe to summarize those first two. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear, built an ark to save his family. So Noah is the 10th from Adam, the 10th generation. And he is warned about things not yet seen. What things?
A lot of rain.
We're going to come a flood. Yeah, interesting. You know, perhaps Enoch had an intimation of that God's going to come with a lot of angels and do something. But Noah is warned that the world was not going to be anymore. Let's see.
Again, the Mesopotamian mythology, okay, specifically the Epic of Gilgamesh, when some of the 19th century scholars were like, oh, well, see, this is where they got the Bible story from. They got it from Gilgamesh. Yeah. But there are differences with the Gilgamesh story of the flood and the biblical account. And one of the major ones who said all these traditions outside the Bible, their descriptions of the ark, they won't float. They whatever the description they have, they don't float. In Search of Noah's Ark, they came out with that movie back in the 70s, and that's on YouTube. And there's like some other like videos I was able to watch, but basically the traditions outside the Bible, those descriptions of the vessel that is supposed to, you know, during the flood, they don't work. They don't work. They cannot handle the stress of the flood, but the biblical account. And they have a model of that in the movie In Search of, where they test a model of the ark. Basically, the ark is just a rectangle box. It's only designed to do one thing, is to protect those who are inside it. It's not supposed to be like transcontinental ocean liner.
No. You could see it today, by the way.
Yeah.
Where do you go?
Tennessee?
Yeah.
Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Yeah, they've rebuilt it.
Yeah.
A model of the ark.
It's
If you
supposed
want
to
to
be
see
accurate.
it. Yeah, it's
I would
supposed
like
to
to
be.
see it.
Yeah. I'd love to go down there.
I don't know.
But also there's occasionally somebody will take a picture of something on Mount Ararat on the border of Turkey and some of it, and you'll see a grainy object in there. Well, that's the remains of the ark.
Yeah. No, they're still looking for
how
Over
valid
5,000 years.
This channel have a show about searching for the ark every now and then or something.
Yeah,
wood is
yeah.
rotted by now.
that it's frozen in the ice. But
Just go for
Or
it.
chopped up the wood for firewood.
you'd think if they could get to Mount Everest, somebody would go and figure out what it.
What would they believe then if they found it? I mean, what's the point?
There's been many
But why?
expeditions up there to find it, but nothing.
Yeah.
That would be quite a find if they ever did find it.
But again, our faith is not based upon whether you find some hunk of wood in the ice on Mount Ararat. It's based upon what the Lord reveals to us.
But, you know, it took them a lot of faith or Noah, because it had never rained before
Yeah,
on the
that's right.
planet. So here, they just had this dew coming down, I guess.
Dew
It's a
came
picture
up.
we get that would
Water
nourish
the
the
ground.
plants and things, but it had never rained. So here God's telling him it's gonna rain. What's rain, you know? But he believed it.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm gonna build a boat. And they'd never probably seen a boat before. So it's a pretty amazing story when you think of it that way.
Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked with God, which suggests he did what God wanted him to do. After the flood, he offers a sacrifice. Maybe he was offering regular sacrifices to God in the early part of his life also. But the Lord told him to make an ark and gave him the instructions of how to do it. And I think the key to Noah is verse 22 of chapter 6. Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Noah did everything just as God commanded him.
Yeah.
Also,
That's faith.
also some of the critical, proofreading the article, he raised up the question, you know, the guy who wrote the article was raising up the question, there's not enough water on the planet to flood the planet. So where did the water come from? And then what happened to the water? Where did the water go after the flood? And the whole point is this is something supernatural.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not natural. I mean, if we could explain where the water came from and where the water went, then it would be natural. Okay, you say, oh yeah, well, it happens all the time. The world gets flooded, all the time. It's a freak accidents or whatever. But
this is where the water canopy theory comes from.
Yeah,
It says the floodgates of the deep were opened, and doesn't it say something about the firmament as well?
yeah, the waters came up from the below and from above.
So there could have been this whole collection of water around the planet that converged. And it's now gone. Those same people will say that's why the dinosaurs are now extinct, because they changed the climate.
And that's why people's live shorter lives, because the water canopy protected people from ultraviolet rays, and so they were allowed to live longer. Who knows? But anyway.
You can also imagine how Noah's neighbors were laughing at him, right? He's building this huge boat.
Yeah.
They've never seen rain before. And they just laughed at it. He was the laugh of the neighborhood, I'm sure, and ridiculed. And he kept building that boat for years. How many years did it take him?
120.
20, huh?
120.
120 years. Can you imagine being ridiculed for 125 years by your neighbors? Oh, and it'll never float,
That's what we get from
that boat.
Genesis 6, verse 3. Man is mortal. His days will be 120 years.
He gave 120 years to repent.
Is that, some people say, you read in the, Noah preached for 120 years as he was building the ark. Don't know if he got up on a pulpit, but just as Matt points out, that he was building a boat is a lesson too, is a way of preaching. Just the way he lived from day to day, which is something for us to ponder, that we can preach just by the way we live lives that are obedient to God. It's going to offend some people. We'll read about some people whose faith offended others, just going about their business of serving God. But anyway, that's what we get. Others say that that's a comment. My spirit will not will be 120 years. That is a reference to the shortening of the lifespan from the 900 year down to about 120 years in the time of Joshua, of Joseph.
The environment changed. That makes sense.
But those fellows lived about 100, 120. Abraham lived a long time at 175, his father 210, Isaac not as many, Jacob 147. Anyway, lifespans began falling. Some people think that they fell to about 110. Then, as Psalms say, 70, if by reason of strength, 80. Life expectancy in the United States today, 70 plus 1.
What's the average now?
What?
Michelle, what's the average
You
lifespan?
just said.
That's just what I read it just the other day in the paper. The life expectancy in the US is 71.
71, that's all.
I don't know
thought it was
about that.
higher.
And people say, well,
70.
anyway, we're getting way
Look
off.
out, look out.
I think it's higher than that. I think it's come down a little.
Well,
it's going down.
some
Yeah,
places.
it has dropped some, yeah.
But I mean,
It does.
they opened a time capsule from 1920 or something, I read, and they predicted then the life expectancy would be 100 by, you know, the end of the about 100 years, about this time. It's not. Will it get to be 100? Scientists, everybody, blah blah blah. It's gonna be, but the Bible still says 70, if by reason of strength 80. So I think that's what it's gonna be.
79.25 is what it says.
Well,
for
anyway,
2024.
It's maybe it was.
It went down during COVID. A little bit.
It's always changing, but hopefully go back up again.
Anyway.
No. With artificial intelligence coming in, that's supposed to improve the technology.
Yeah.
Gonna wreck the world.
It should help.
No, it's not. It's gonna wreck the world.
You'll have a robot operating on you.
That's what's gonna happen with AI.
Because it's gonna help medicine, it will help medicine.
It's destroying humanity.
There's a lot of negative things too, but.
The Lord will decide when it's time.
It will help
for
some things.
humanity to be destroyed, not artificial intelligence.
Nothing.
That's be interesting to see what happens.
I don't think so.
It's gonna
But anyway.
be a plus and a minus.
We read about Noah elsewhere in Peter, 1 Peter chapter 2. If he did not spare the ancient world when he brought the flood on its ungodly people, but protected Noah, a preacher of righteousness. So he's described as a preacher of righteousness. He's also mentioned in the 3rd chapter of, that was 2 Peter, but 1 Peter, right, chapter 3, 20, 21. What does he say there? Where does the sentence begin? Christ died for sins once for all, the righteous for the unrighteous, to bring you to God. He was put to death in the body, but made alive by the Spirit, through whom also he went and preached to the spirits in prison, who disobeyed long ago when God waited patiently in the days of Noah, while the ark was being built. In it, only a few people, 8 in all, were saved through water. And this water symbolizes baptism that also now saves you also. Not the removal of dirt from the body, but the pledge of a good conscience toward God. It saves you by the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who has gone into heaven and is at God's right hand, with angels, authorities, and powers in submission to him. If we were raised on the old version, the like figure, we're unto baptism, this also now save us, not putting away the filth of the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience toward God. That's the King James. The like figure, we're unto baptism, this also now save us. Anyway, well, Noah, some people think, well, Jesus went into the Hadean world and preached there. I think it's just a reference. He preached to the spirits in prison, people under the domination of Satan, who were like those same type of people who disobeyed in the days of Noah, and God destroyed them. Then God will destroy them in the future time. And we can be saved by the resurrection of Jesus Christ. But it is a powerful verse on the concept of immersion as being something related to salvation. Baptism will also now save us.
Supports our water baptism.
That's right.
instead of sprinkling people.
That's right.
Best thing I read was that Christ was in Noah preaching to, the people before the flood, that the ark wasn't meant just for Noah and his family. The ark was meant for the ark was enough for other people to be, but that's the result. Okay, they don't listen.
Yeah. In a sense, yeah. He was preaching through Noah at that time. So he's a man of faith, not a perfect man. And
He had a
that's
drinking problem.
What?
He had a
That's
drinking
right. He
problem.
got drunk and had all his clothes off, and that's going to be the point of so many of these fellows that we meet in this chapter. They were honored for faith, but they weren't perfect. They had lapses, they had faults, but they were mentioned in this chapter, which is some assurance to us because, or me, I'm not perfect, and if they can have faith,
It gives us hope.
That's right.
We can be saved.
It gives
do
us
good
hope.
work for God. Still be imperfect.
Was he condemned when he was drunk? That's the question we should ask.
What's that?
He was praying. Was he condemned when he was drunk? No.
No, that's right. That's right.
So we cannot say he's not perfect, because here his perfection is what the Bible is declaring to us. As he was drunk that time, the way they move with God is different from the way today, or the position that God has put down for us today. So if I get up today, I say, oh, no one drank, so I too I should drink today, I'd be mistaken. You see? Yeah, I'd be mistaken. But then his perfection is preaching the good news to the people. Destruction is coming.
Right. They didn't listen, did they?
That's
Exactly.
Right. That's
Nobody
right.
listened, actually. He must have been awfully frustrated, right?
Nobody but his
Nobody,
family.
but and he just loaded them in the boat. I mean,
His sons and
they might not believe it either.
Noah is a very powerful example. You say he was saved. How do we know? There's not very many in the Bible we have mentioned these people are saved, but in Ezekiel, we read these words: even if these three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, were in it, they could save only themselves by their righteousness, declares the sovereign Lord. Twice in that chapter of Ezekiel, Noah, Daniel, and Job are mentioned as righteous people who are saved. So, and Noah is an example. People were surprised when the flood came, even though Noah had been there building a boat for however.
Yeah.
People, and Jesus said, people are going to be surprised when the Lord comes back again. Just as it was in the days of Noah. People going about their daily lives, not heeding the spiritual things. Anyway, we've covered three. We'll move on. But thank you for your, okay.
You'd say Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Yeah.
This verse says it was the youngest son that didn't cover his nakedness. I wonder if your version says the same. I'm sorry, just
Where?
Genesis 9.
He's talking about grandson.
Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Noah was
Okay, thanks. 9 what?
Oh, yeah, maybe him.
Hardly see it. Toward the end. 34.
We have to change.
9:34.
Change.
24 is it when Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on their shoulders, and walked backward and covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces were turned backward; they did not see their father's nakedness. When Noah woke, he knew what his youngest son had done to him. Youngest? Did you say?
Must be Ham saw his father's nakedness and told his two brothers outside.
We don't think of him as the youngest because of the order.
Yeah.
So which is it?
Pick on
It
the
must have been, yeah.
No, she said.
Did you know that Ham was the youngest?
I didn't know.
Youngest? But why do we put him in the middle then?
It's the Bible puts him in the middle.
It's just, I never noticed it.
But Ham is not cursed, his son.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's true, but I mean, Ham is the one they're talking about.
That won't stop it.
Yes,
You know, they're gonna be all kinds
He's
of.
the one.
You're right.
somehow was dishonored. No.
People get, gonna get put